Right, friends. So welcome back. I think this is where we have left in the last session, right? So the summary of the limiting factor concept. The summary of the limiting factor concept is where we have left in the last session, right? Now, let's move on to the next concept, that is make or buy decisions. Okay. So what we'll do now is that we'll finish off the remaining concepts and then we'll get into solving sums. Because it's a rapid revision, we need to solve as many sums as possible in a time span of 1 hour, or able to understand 1 hour, 15 minutes. That's what we are going to plan. Anyways, so look at this make or buy decision. How to take a make or buy decision? Very simple. You always need to compare variable cost of manufacturing with external buying price to take a make or buy decision. Now, always try to keep in mind that why am I comparing variable cost of manufacturing with external buying price? Why? Because it is based on the presumption that fixed cost is constant. It is based on the presumption that fixed cost is constant, and fixed cost is irrelevant. When it is constant, it doesn't change. So whether you decide to manufacture or you decide to buy from outside, your fixed cost remains what? The same. Therefore, it is not relevant for decision making. Therefore, we will ignore it. Are you able to understand? So it's a simple logic, right? But suppose fixed cost changes, then variable cost of manufacturing plus the fixed cost that is changing should be compared with external buying price, and accordingly only decision should be taken. This keep it in mind. Okay, now coming on to product A, variable cost of manufacturing was 40, external buying price is 35. So your decision will be to buy. Coming on to B, variable cost of manufacturing is 50, external buying price is 65. So your decision will be to make. Why? Because making is cheaper. Here 80 and 90, so 80 is cheaper, which means it's better to make or manufacture. So 95% of the cases, your variable cost of manufacturing will be less than external buying price. Why? Because external buying price is a selling price for the external vendor. So his selling price means he'll have his own cost plus profit markup, right? So definitely your variable cost of manufacturing by using common sense should always be less than the selling price of your external vendor. The logic is very simple. But sometimes if your variable cost of manufacturing is greater than the selling price of the external vendor, which becomes cost for you, then it means that you are really pathetic. You are absolutely inefficient in manufacturing. In that case, it's better to buy rather than manufacturing. That's how the logic works. You got it? So here I've given you the start point. In above decision making right, it is based on the presumption that fixed cost is constant, therefore it is irrelevant. So which means if fixed cost changes, then that should be added here in decision making process, and then you compare this with this. Are you able to get me? Right? Sure. So with that, we are done with the limiting factor and also make or buy. Now let's get into the concept of indifference point. Right. So what is this indifference point concept? This concept is very important for two chapters. One is transfer pricing as well as decision making. Decision making revision, we have already done it. We have brushed up all the concepts. So now, but as I told you, sometimes this will be covered as part and parcel of decision making chapter, but I've covered it as part and parcel of transfer pricing chapter. Right. Anyways, now let's try to understand this particular concept. What is this concept of indifference point? So let's start with the definition first. It is a level of sales at which total cost of the two options will be same, and also as a result total profit of two options will be same, and therefore the person taking decision will be indifferent between both the options. Will be indifferent between both the options means he will not show any difference. Like say for example, if there is option A and option B, he will look at these options in a similar way. Option A or option B, both are nothing but same for him. So that's how the logic works. Now the biggest question here is how the person is actually taking decision. Well, the person taking decision will be indifferent between both the options, which means he is basically taking decision based on profit. Say for example, there are two options. He is looking at the profit of two options and both the options gives him same profit. Therefore, he feels that either option A or option B, both are nothing but same for me. That's why it becomes indifference point. What becomes indifference point? That sales level becomes indifference point. The sales level at which profit is same. Please try to keep that in mind, right? Anyways, let's look into the definition one more time. What are the keywords in the definition? It's a sales level. That is the first thing you need to remember. Second, of which total cost of two options will be same. So it's specifically mentioned that it is two options, which means you can find indifference point between two options. Say for example, A and B. Suppose there are three options A, B and C. Can you find indifference point between all the three? Not possible, because specifically it is mentioned in the definition that you can find indifference point between two options. So if there are three options, eventually what happens is that you need to find indifference point between AB, BC and then AC, and accordingly you need to take the decision. That's the way you need to find indifference point. If it is for more than 2 options. And profit of 2 options will be same. So this is another keyword, because I told you that the person taking decision will take his decision based on profit. You got the point? Okay. Now let's try to go a little bit deeper. Let's dig deeper into the concept. So basically this is how it looks like. Let's say there are 2 options, option A and option B. Okay. Option A, sales, will be equals to option B, sales, because it is a level of sales at which total cost of 2 options will be same. So sales is same for both the options. Total cost is same for both the options. Naturally, profit also will be same. So if you dig this further deeper, and then you will understand that yes, sales is same, total cost is also same, but total cost is made up of 2 elements, that is variable cost and fixed cost, and they are not same. For example, if you see, variable cost of option A is not equals to variable cost of option B, and fixed cost of option A is not equals to fixed cost of option B. But once you total them up, the total cost is equal to both the options, which means what basically happens is, say for example, if variable cost is less for option A, then fixed cost will be high. If variable cost is high for option B, then fixed cost will be less. So the set off will happen, and thereby eventually the total cost will be same. Are you able to understand? That's how the logic works. So sales is same, total cost is same, so profit is also same, but variable cost and fixed cost are not equal. So how to understand this, sir? Let's try to understand the basics a bit. See, say for example, sir, if variable cost is high, fixed cost will be less? Yes. If variable cost is less, then fixed cost will be high? Yes. Sir, variable cost and fixed cost both will be high? Not possible. Sir, variable cost and fixed cost both can be less? So, not possible. Why, sir? Why? Because if you want to reduce your variable cost, you need to invest in fixed cost. Means, if you want to reduce your variable cost, say for example, there is something called capital intensive department. In capital intensive department, what happens? It will be full of machines. That's why it is called capital intensive. So you've invested a lot of capital. So there is a lot of fixed cost. And therefore, because machines are manufacturing, automatically your variable cost will be less. Because machines will manufacture at a cheaper cost. So therefore, fixed cost is high and variable cost is less. So to reduce your fixed cost, you need to invest in, to reduce your variable cost, you need to invest in fixed cost. You need to buy machines, invest in fixed cost, and then only variable cost of manufacturing per unit will be less. Similarly, if suppose there is a labor intensive department, obviously there are no machines, so you haven't invested much, therefore your fixed cost will be less. But as the products are being made by labor, automatically the variable cost will be high. So therefore, what you need to understand here is that if you want to reduce your variable cost, you need to invest in fixed cost. So naturally, high fixed cost option will automatically be low variable cost option. Are you able to get my drift? High fixed cost option will automatically be low variable cost option, because only if you invest in fixed cost, your variable cost will be less reduced. That's how the logic works. You got the point? Anyways, so that's it. That's the concept. So we have seen the definition. We have understood the depth, that total cost is same, but individual elements of cost is not same. That is variable and fixed cost. And then we have understood the logics behind the relationship between variable and fixed cost as well. But now, how to use this particular concept, how to apply this particular concept in a sum, that we'll try to see. So application of IDP concept, that is indifference point. Okay, let's try to understand that. So I've given you stepwise procedure, so that it will be very easy for you to understand. So let's start with that. Step 1. First, you need to estimate your actual sales. Say for example, you want to do a business. How much is the sales that you are expecting? For example, let's say you want to open up a hotel. There are 2 ways of opening up a hotel or a restaurant. Let's say it's a restaurant. Okay. One is like KFC or McD, you can go for high fixed cost, because as you can see in KFC and McD, most of the food is being made by the machines and less of labor. Or you can go for a traditional or local restaurant type, where there will be more of the labor and less of the machines. So obviously when you go for KFC type, what will happen? Fixed cost will be high. Okay. And variable cost will be less. If you go for KFC kind of, manufacturing the tiffin or food or whatever it is. If you go for our own Desi style, then fixed cost will be less and variable cost will be high. Now let's say you want to open up a restaurant and you are confused. You don't know which option to go for. Should I go for heavy machines option, or should I go for low machines options like the Desi style? You are confused. The solution for your confusion will be given by indifference point. How? Step 1, estimate your actual sales. Let's say you are thinking that 60 lakhs of turnover will happen this particular year. You are expecting that much of sales will happen for your restaurant. Now what you do? Calculate indifference point sales as second step. How to calculate indifference point sales? change in fixed cost divided by change in variable cost. That's very simple logic, right? Because that's the basic purpose of the whole concept of indifference point. There are two options. What is the only difference between two options? Fixed cost is different, variable cost is different. Therefore, naturally, the formula to calculate indifference point will be change in fixed cost divided by change in variable cost. It's pretty simple. Now, what you do in the third step, you compare your actual sales with indifference point sales, which means the second step sales should be compared with first step sales. Once you do that, there are three possibilities for you. What are those three possibilities? Either your actual expected sales will be less than indifference point sales, or your actual expected sales will be equals to indifference point sales, or your actual expected sales is greater than indifference point sales. So there are three possibilities. Okay. Now, if your actual expected sales is less than indifference point sales, that means that your sales is less because you are selling less. That's why your actual expected sales is less than the indifference point sales. Your market is less. So when your market is less, when you're trying to sell less number of units and your market is really less, you would like to go for that particular option which has got low fixed cost. Why? Because already your sales is less. If you go for that option which has got high fixed cost, then eventually what will happen? Maybe you might end up in a situation where you may not recover your fixed cost as well. So therefore, because your sales is less, your market is less, therefore go for that option which has got low fixed cost so that you will earn more profit, or at least earn profit first of all. If you go for high fixed cost option in this kind of a scenario, you may not even reach break-even point. That is also possible. Are you getting the logic, right? Now, if your actual expected sales is equal to indifference point sales, that's fine. Then your sales level is nothing but indifference point level, which means your total cost will be same, sales will be same, profit will be same. So you can choose either of the options because both the options will give you same profit. Got the point? But if your actual expected sales is greater than indifference point sales, then it means that your sales is big, your market is big, right? So when your market is big, you will go for high fixed cost option. Why, sir? Well, the logic is very simple. Listen carefully. If your sales is big and greater than indifference point sales, it means that basically you would have crossed BEP. It means that basically you would have crossed BEP. So when you have crossed BEP, it means that already your fixed cost is recovered, correct? When you have crossed BEP, it means that already your fixed cost is recovered because then only it is BEP, right? All your cost has to be recovered, including fixed cost. So once your fixed cost is recovered, there are only two types of cost, fixed and variable. Fixed is already recovered. So what is left over? Variable. So you'll go for that option which has got low variable cost. Incidentally, low variable cost option is nothing but high fixed cost option. Therefore, go for high fixed cost option. That will give you maximum profit. That's how the logic works. You got this? Right. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. The next concept is transfer pricing methods to resolve performance evaluation conflicts. Sometimes what happens is that there will be a fight between individual divisions and neither of them will come to a common acceptable transfer price. They'll keep on fighting. In those kind of situations, head office will involve and they will resolve the transfer pricing conflict, which stops or abrupts the interdivisional transfers, which is beneficial from the company's point of view, but individual divisional managers are not accepting or are not making that happen because of their own selfish interest. Probably it is hurting their division's profit. Are you able to understand? So there are two solutions to solve this sort of a transfer pricing conflict. They are dual rate transfer pricing system. Other one is two-part transfer pricing system. What is that? Let's try to understand. Dual rate transfer pricing system means there will be two rates. In supplying division's book, there will be one rate. In receiving division's book, there will be another rate. How is that possible, sir? Very simple. See here. Supplying division in his books, he will put TP is equal to variable cost plus markup. Let's say variable cost is 10 rupees. He'll put markup of 2 and he will put in his books that he has sold at a price of 12 to purchasing division. But purchasing division in his books, he will write intermediate product purchase cost is nothing but transfer price, right? For purchasing division. He will write it as 10 rupees only. Sir, how is that possible, sir? How can you write 12? How can you write 10? For this, you need to understand the basics of transfer pricing. In majority of the cases, when it comes to interdivisional transfer, the real transfer will not happen. It is just a mere book entry or a system entry. Really, supply division will not receive money. Really, receiving division will not pay money. It's just an understanding. They'll just put an entry in their system. That's it. And therefore, this sort of a logic works only when there is real monetary transaction that is happening. Then this sort of a logic doesn't work. It seems stupid, right? How can this guy put 12 as revenue? How can this guy put 10 as cost? It doesn't work that way, right? You understand the point? So because the real transaction of money doesn't happen, this works. Are you able to understand? So now supply division is happy because he has got good revenue. Purchasing division is also very happy. Why? Because he has got it at a lesser cost. So both of them are happy. They'll agree for interdivisional transfers and the company also will be happy. Of course, there is a negative point in this kind of a dual rate transfer pricing system where if you do reconciliation tomorrow, there will be a headache. There will be a confusion that you need to sort it out because of this two different transfer pricing. Got the point? But ultimately, the transfer pricing conflict is resolved and interdivisional transfer will happen between supplying division and purchasing division. This is one point that you have to remember. The other solution to resolve the transfer pricing conflict is two-part transfer pricing system. Now, what is this two-part transfer pricing system? You've got two divisions. One is supplying division. The other one is receiving division. Let's say their total capacity is 50,000 units. Let's say, okay. And external sales is 40,000 units and internal transfer is 10,000 units, which means external and internal sales is happening in the ratio of 4:1. Let's say variable cost is 20 rupees per unit and fixed cost of the supplying division is 1 lakh. Just a second, Nana. Right, Nana, let's continue. Okay. Now, so initially I gave you a small example with a little bit of data so that it will be easy for us to understand this two-part transfer pricing system. So there are two divisions, supplying and receiving. The total capacity of the supplying division is 50,000 units. In that, external sales will be 40, internal sales will be 10,000, which means it is in the ratio of 4:1. Variable cost of the supplying division is 20, fixed cost is 1 lakh. Let's put the data this way. Now, the logic behind two-part transfer pricing system, why it is named as two-part is one part will go for compensating the variable cost incurred by the supplying division. Who will compensate? Receiving division. The other part will go for compensating fixed cost. See, normally when you fix your TP as variable cost, supplying division will not accept. Why? Because it wants something more than variable cost. Variable cost is something that is incurring. That is being incurred by the supplying division. And if you say that I'll pay the same amount of money, then supplying division does not have any motivation to manufacture. Why? Because I incur a variable cost of 10, you pay me 10, then what's the ultimate use of doing all these things? Instead, I can just sit back and watch, So therefore, supply division says that give me something up and above the variable cost so that I can recover my fixed cost to some extent. Are you able to understand? So therefore, two-part transfer pricing system says that there will be two parts in the compensation that receiving division is going to pay to supplying division. One part will compensate variable cost. The other part will compensate the fixed cost. Now the question is, variable cost part is very easy. Okay, 20 rupees is the variable cost incurred by the supplying division. You pay 20 rupees. So this part compensation is very easy. But fixed cost part compensation is not very easy. Why? Because the total fixed cost incurred by by the supplying division is 1 lakh. So will receiving division pay entire 1 lakh? It doesn't work that way. So what receiving division does is that it looks at, in this example, there is an external sales to internal sales ratio of 4:1, which means receiving division says you are selling 4 units outside and 1 unit inside. So out of the total fixed cost that you have incurred, recover 4 parts of your fixed cost from the outside sales and 1 part we will compensate. That's the fair way of doing calculation, right? So fixed cost is 1 lakh. Divide the fixed cost in the ratio of external sales and internal sales, which is 4:1, which means 80,000 should be recovered by the supplying division from the external sales and 20,000 will be paid by the receiving division. Therefore, total transfer price is equal to variable cost part compensation plus compensation towards fixed part. How many units are being transferred internally? 10,000 units. Are you able to understand? That's it, right? 10,000 units. So which means 10,000 into 20 rupees per unit. So one part which compensates variable cost incurred by the supplying division, that will come to 2 lakhs. And the other part will be towards fixed cost compensation, which came around 20,000 over here. So 2 lakhs plus 20,000, your total compensation will be 2,20,000, which includes two parts. 2 lakhs, which is variable cost part, and 20,000, which is fixed cost part. And this can also be called as lump sum consideration method. Okay, right. Anyways, keep that in mind. This two-part transfer pricing system can also be called as lump sum consideration method. Keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move on. And finally, we have come to the last concept, that is international transfer pricing. So with this, we'll be winding up all the concepts. Okay. There is nothing much in international transfer pricing. Okay. Normally, while solving sums only, you'll be able to understand. It's just about, the interest in the group as a whole. Are you able to understand? So what is the purpose behind international transfer pricing? There has been a lot of MNCs, and these multinational companies, they find resources in one country like raw material. They find cheap labor in one country like China, for example. They find ease of doing business. China is the example for that. Demand for finished goods or products, India is the reason. So which means they come and establish their business in India, not because of first 3 points, but because of the 4th point. Because in India, if you can manufacture something, you can sell in India itself. You need not look out for external market, but that's not the case in other countries. Okay. So when they try to establish a manufacturing sector, say for example, they need to again look for outside that particular country where they have established to sell their particular goods. But in India, you don't have that kind of an issue, So therefore, these are all the 4 reasons why MNCs will establish their business. Once MNCs have established their business, because they are in countries, they are in multiple countries. So there will be a situation called international transfer pricing. And the reason for transfer pricing is 2 things. One is taxation and profit remittance. I have already discussed about taxation and profit remittance when I was teaching you, or when I was revising you, utility of transfer pricing. So I won't be repeating that part over here because this is a rapid revision. We don't have time. But ultimately, this much is enough right now. Okay, because of this, MNCs are establishing their business in multiple countries, and this leads to something called international transfer pricing. That much is enough right now for you. Once we start solving sums in that, we'll try to revise that particular part as well. Are you able to get me? Right, guys. So that's it. We will stop the concepts over here. Its concept is done. Next is decision making. Okay. Decision making revision. I've already brushed up the concepts over here. Now, next, we will go for problems. We'll finish up the problems in 1 hour 15 minutes. Are you able to understand? So which means how fast it will go, you can imagine, but that's the way it works. That's what we call it as rapid revision. Are you able to get me? Right, buddies. So let's go for problems now. Let's move on. Okay, guys. Now we're going to take the first problem that has been given in transfer pricing. Here it is. So division A produces goods at a cost of 10 per unit and transfers the goods to division B, which has additional cost of 5 per unit. Division B sells externally at 16 per unit. The company has a policy of setting transfer prices at cost plus 20%. You are required to calculate profit of each division and overall profit the company made and write a brief analysis of the results. Okay, now this problem is pretty simple. You just calculate profit for division A, which is given already. It's cost plus 20%. We get 12 minus cost. You get your profit. And for receiving division also, it's very simple. Already the sales is given in the question, which is 16 minus 2 types of cost. One is its own cost, which is 5, that is given in the question. Other one is intermediate product purchase cost, which is nothing but the revenue of the supplying division, which is 12, and you get your profit. So it's a very simple calculation. But what is more important for us is the analysis. Now, if you can see, the profit of supplying division is 2 and the profit of receiving division is 1 loss. Overall profit of the company is 1 profit, which is positive. Okay, 2 minus 1. Now, so coming on to this particular thing, we have lots of challenges over here, lots of analysis. First thing is, if this setup continues, always division A will earn profit and always division B will face loss. Why? Because you have fixed your TP based on cost plus markup of 20%, and therefore division A will always make profit no matter what its cost is, because cost plus 20%, whatever the cost, ultimately it will earn profit. And this cost plus markup will eventually increase the input cost or intermediate product purchase cost for the receiving division, and eventually it will always face losses. Now, because of this, there are 2 problems. One, division A manager will become careless. He will become lethargic, because no matter what his cost is, no matter how efficient he is, no matter whether he takes any steps to reduce the cost or control the cost of his particular division, which is division A, he'll be getting profit in all weather conditions. So therefore, he will become inefficient in that way. Coming on to division B also, division B's manager also may become inefficient. Why? Because he will lose his confidence because no matter what, whatever he do, always he'll be facing losses. Therefore, what will happen is that he will also stop, being efficient, and that will be a double blow for the company, and that will create goal congruence. This is problem number 1. It will create goal conflict. Second thing is, if you look at the internal markup and external markup, If you look at the internal markup, it is 20%, which is 20% is what is allowed for division A to charge, right, from division B. Whereas if you look at the external markup on the finished good that this particular company is selling, it is only 6.67%. I hope you know the calculation. Total cost, which is 10 rupees for this division and 5 rupees for this division, total 15. And the profit that the company is charging is 1 rupee. So 1 by 15 into 100, which is 6.67%. So based on this analysis, we can come to two conclusions. One, either the internal markup is correct or the external markup is correct. If internal markup of 20% is justified, then you revise your external selling price, thereby increase your external markup to 20% as well, then it will be justified. Or if you say your external markup is correct, then revise your internal markup, bring it down to 6.67%. Are you able to understand? Next, also, we can also do one more analysis, that is we can allow division B to buy from outside, okay, from an external vendor. Because of this, there are two advantages. If you buy from external vendor, right now division B is buying at a price of 12. So when it buys from external vendor, it can be more than 12 or less than 12. Say for example, it can be 14 or it can be 10. Are you able to understand? Suppose if it is less than 12, that is 10, it means that the division A is inefficient. Are you able to understand? Because in the external markup, the selling price of the external vendor is 10 rupees, whereas division A is charging 12 rupees. In that case, division B will continue to buy from outside at 10 rupees. Thereby, division A neither can transfer internally because division B will not buy, nor it can sell externally because externally it is available at 10 rupees. Thereby, division A has got no other option but to increase its efficiency, up the game, and that is in the interest of the company. So that's good. Second thing is, suppose the external buying price is 14, then that reflects that division A is highly efficient. The problem is with division B. Either division B is inefficient in managing its own cost or division B's selling price is very less. These two should be the reasons. Are you able to understand? In that case, division B will either revise its selling price or it will increase its efficiency, thereby reduce its cost, and thereby it is again in the interest of the company. So in either of the cases, ultimately the company will get benefited. Are you able to understand? So whether it is 10 rupees where your external buying price is less than the internal transfer price, or 14 rupees where your external buying price is greater than the internal transfer price of 12. Got it? So that's the analysis for the first part of the question. Got it, guys? Chalo, let's move on to the next one. So this is done. All this analysis are also finished. Behavioral consequences also we have covered. Okay, now, so I hope you guys are aware of these transfer pricing methods. Okay, there are three: market based, cost based, and negotiation based. Under cost based, we have again four: marginal cost, standard cost, full cost, and full cost plus markup. We'll see them one by one. Okay, now coming on to market based transfer price, I hope these you guys can study. So it's not, it is nothing much over here. Okay, because you're trying to fix your TP based on market price, it will be unbiased because nobody can influence the same. Okay, that is one point. Second, there is no confusion because the transfer price is nothing but market price and it is clearly available in the market. And because the pricing is competitive, what will happen? Both the divisions will ultimately increase their efficiency, right? Which we have seen in the earlier problem as well. So if you try to fix your TP as market price, then your divisions has to compulsorily match with the efficiency of the external market, and that's good from company's perspective. So all these are positive points if you fix your TP based on market price. So one is there is no unbiasedness, there will be unbiasedness, and there will be less ambiguity, there is no confusion because market price is clearly available. And the third one is your individual divisions performance will increase and it has to compulsorily match with the performance or efficiency of the industry as a whole or market as a whole, and that's good for the company. Now coming on to the disadvantages, we have told that the market price is completely unbiased because it is determined by the market forces of supply and demand. But in all the cases, it need not be completely unbiased. For example, there is a distressed sale market. Okay, there is a predatory pricing situation where you try to reduce your selling price wantedly to kill your competition. That's what we call predatory pricing. In those kind of situations, obviously, your market price, that market price, if you fix as a TP, then it's absolutely wrong. Are you able to understand? So that's a negative point for TP. Also, sometimes market prices can fluctuate widely and quickly. It can fluctuate so much, it can fluctuate fast. In that case, which market price will you take to fix your TP? That's another confusion, and that's a problematic scenario. Also, sometimes the kind of intermediate product or the goods that you manufacture will be so unique, will be so special that you are the only one who is manufacturing such a kind of intermediate product in the entire country. So thereby you will not find market at all So when there is no market for your intermediate product, there is no question of having a market price, and thereby what will happen in that particular situation? You cannot fix your TP based on market price because there is no market price available. Why? Because you are the only one manufacturing such a kind of intermediate product. Is that clear? Right. So that's it, guys. Okay. Now let's have a look into this particular sum. A manufacturer of cornflakes has two divisions, one producing the cornflakes and another packaging division that manufactures cartons. The production division purchase all the cartons from the packaging division. Cost of cartons from outside vendors would be, so you've got number of cartons and the cost over here. Production cost incurred by the packaging division for similar volume of cartons, 5,000, and this value is also given. And as you can see, the volume, total cost excluding the cost of cartons means what? This is further processing cost. Okay, which means it is the cost of the receiving division. Okay, receiving division only. Sale value, that is the final sale value of the receiving division, is also given. An appropriate transfer pricing policy is being framed as the corporate management accountant. Transfer pricing based on first one, shared profit relative to cost method, second one, market price method, and also he has asked you to show profitability of each division under both the methods, and finally discuss the effect of both the methods on the profitability of those divisions. Okay, so let's do this. Right, Nana. So what is that he has asked you? You need to fix TP based on two different methods. Okay, one is shared profit related to cost method. So what do you mean by this? You need to share your profit in proportion to the cost. So from this, what you have to understand is that first I need to calculate total profit for the company as a whole. Once I calculate total profit for the company as a whole and total cost for the company as a whole as well as the individual divisions, then only I can share profit in relation to cost. So that will be your step one, where you want to calculate the profit of the company as a whole and the total cost of the company as a whole. So once you are done with it, you can fix your TP based on shared profit relative to cost method. And market price method, there is nothing much because this is a copy paste. That's it. You'll take the market price, you'll copy paste it. That will be your TP. And once you are done with fixation of TP, you need to calculate profitability under both the methods for both the divisions under two different levels of cartons. That is 5,000. Other one is 8,000. So if you can see, that's what we have done here. Calculation of total profit and total cost for the company. So first we started with 5,000 units. Revenue, there will be no revenue for the supplying division. So I have put dash over here. And receiving division has got the real revenue. That is nothing but total revenue for the company as well. And cost, both the divisions have got cost at 5,000 units level. Copy paste from the question. And I've got total cost because I need this for calculating TP based on shared profit relative to cost method. And I've got profit for the company as a whole. So similar stuff, I have to do it for 8,000 units as well. And I've done it for 8,000 units as well. You got it? Now, if you look at how do I fix TP based on shared profit relative to cost method for 5,000 units. TP is equal to variable cost plus share of profit, obviously. So you need something up and above variable cost for the supplying division to get motivated to manufacture and internally transfer. So variable cost is 75,000, that is there in the question. Share of profit is nothing but, as you can see, this is the cost of supplying division, which is 75,000 divided by total cost, that is 1,95,000. So that much of proportion. How much is your cost proportion? That much proportion of the profit you will get share, right? So 75,000 is the cost of the supplying division out of the total cost into total profit. This much of share of profit he will get. So total TP will be 76,923. Same logic applies for 8,000 units as well. Now calculation of TP based on market price is very simple. Okay, you just copy paste the numbers from the question. So once you are done with calculation of TP, now we need to calculate the profit at both 5,000 units level and 8,000 units level. First, we'll calculate profit based on shared profit related to cost method. So what you're going to do? You're going to take the revenue. You know that revenue is nothing but transfer price, correct? For supplying division and receiving division, it is there in the question. Copy paste. Reduce cost. You'll have two types of cost for the receiving division, but only one cost for the supplying division. Okay, which is variable cost for the supplying division. But for receiving division, you'll have the TP, which is intermediate product purchase cost. Also, you'll have its own cost, which we call it as further processing cost. And you calculate the profit. Got it? Same stuff you follow for 8,000 units. And the same way you have calculated for shared profit related to cost method, you can calculate the same for market price method. Is that clear? For 5,000 units as well as 8,000 units. So the calculation will be pretty simple and straightforward. Okay. Now, what is most important in this particular question is the second part analysis, where you got to discuss the effect of both the methods on the profitability of the division. So this is very important for us. We'll focus on that right now. Okay. Now, so if you can observe all these numbers over here, right? Especially look at the profits. Based on shared profit relative to cost method at 5000 units level, the profit is 1923 and 3077. Correct? Keep this in mind. Now, if you look at market price method also at 5000 units level, okay, the profit is pretty much same. It is 2000 and 3000. Okay. Here it was 1923 and 3077. So it's exactly the same. No problem whatsoever. But if you look at 8000 units level, here the profit is 12,308 and 27,692 based on shared profit relative to cost method. Whereas if you look at market price method, it is 15,000 and 25,000. So there is a lot of difference. Are you able to understand why such a difference has happened? So that we need to analyze. Well, if you analyze that, let us look at the analysis. What we have done at 5000 units, we have calculated the cost of supply division. Supply division total cost was 75,000. That was for 5000 units. Thereby, cost per unit is 15. Whereas at 8000 units level, the supply division cost is 80,000 and it was for 8000 units. Therefore, the cost per unit is 10 only. So there was a drop in cost of 33.33% for the supply division. Whereas when it comes to receiving division, its cost at 5000 units level was 24 per unit and its cost at 8000 units level was 22.50, which means it has got dropped by only 6.25%. So which means what is happening over here is my supply division profit has got dropped by 1/3 and my receiving division's profit has got dropped by only 6.25%, which means at 8000 units level, my proportion of cost of the receiving division is more when compared to supply division. So therefore, when you try to fix TP based on proportion of cost, more the proportion of cost, more will be your profit share. Therefore, receiving division has got more share of profit when compared to the supply division. So ultimately, supply division has got punished for saving lot of cost. Are you able to understand? Chalo, have a look into this. You got the logic over here? So that is what has happened here. That is what the explanation this guy has given here. Okay, this whole paragraph. You understand the point? So the logic is very simple. What he tries to explain you is that when you try to share your profit based on shared profit relative to cost method. So what will happen is that when supply division has reduced its cost by 1/3, that is 33.33%, its cost has got reduced and therefore its proportion of the cost when compared to the total cost proportion has got further reduced. Therefore, it has received lesser share of profit. Therefore, its profit has got reduced, which has come to 12,308 as per 8000 units. Are you able to understand? Whereas coming on to production division, because its cost has got reduced only by 6.25%, its share out of the total cost, its cost share out of the total cost is more. Therefore, it has received more share of profit and thereby its profit has got increased, and that is the reason as per shared profit relative to cost method, it is 27,000 is the profit for production division and 12,000 is the profit for package division versus 15,000 and 25,000 as per market price method. So we will explain this and we will leave it like that. We are not going to pass any judgments because that has not been asked in the question. Now this is very important for you. Always try to understand when something has not been asked in the question, you guys should not give too much of answers and that will irk the examiner and thereby that will give you definitely few loss of marks. Is that clear? I hope that's clear. Okay, chalo. Let's move on to the next question. Let's move on to the next question, guys. So division A transfers goods to division B. Division A incurs a marginal cost of 10 per unit. Division B incurs marginal cost of 5 per unit. Division B sells finished product externally at 20 per unit. To promote goal congruence, what should be the minimum TP that division A should charge? Assume there is no external market for this intermediate product. Now always understand something, Nana. I'll give you a simple trick. So you have two things. One is minimum transfer price. Other one is maximum transfer price. Minimum transfer price, always think from supply division's point of view. Okay. Maximum transfer price, always think from receiving division's point of view. Why? Because supply division is the one who is going to incur the cost. Therefore, minimum selling price, you should give the importance towards supply division and you should fix your minimum TP more than the cost that has been incurred by the supply division. When it comes to maximum TP, always think from receiving division's point of view because receiving division is the one who is going to buy the goods. Therefore, you need to see whether receiving division has got sufficient money to buy the goods. That is nothing but NMR, net marginal revenue, which is nothing but how much is the money that receiving division has got. Okay. Generally, the concept goes this way. Minimum TP is equal to relevant cost of the supplying division. Relevant cost can be anything. It can be variable cost or it can be variable cost plus opportunity cost. Maximum TP is equal to the money that receiving division has got, which is nothing but NMR, net marginal revenue, or external buying price, whichever is less will be your answer. Why? Because if you think from receiving division's point of view, what will be his thought process? I will purchase either, I'll give you maximum price, either with respect to the money that I've got or whatever the money that I pay to the external vendor. Suppose I'm trying to buy from external vendor at 50 rupees and internally supply division says that I will charge you 55. He will say, I'll not buy you from 55. I mean, I'll not buy at 55 from you. I'll buy from outside at 50. It's as simple as that. Are you able to understand? So the concept is very simple. When it comes to supply division, the minimum TP is the relevant cost, which can be either variable cost or marginal cost, or variable cost or marginal cost plus opportunity cost. Coming on to the maximum TP, which you need to think from receiving division's point of view, which will be either NMR. NMR is nothing but the money that receiving division possesses, net marginal revenue, or the external buying price, whichever is less. Got it? Chalo. Now, so to promote goal congruence, what should be the minimum transfer price that division A should charge? Assume there is no external market for the intermediate product. When there is no external market means there is no sacrificing of external sales. When you don't sacrifice external sales, there is no benefit lost. When there is no benefit lost or contribution lost, there is no opportunity cost. Therefore, your minimum TP, which you need to think from supply division's point of view, will be variable cost. In this case, the variable cost is how much, Nana? 10 rupees. So 10 rupees will be your answer. If division B can buy the intermediate part externally, in one case 14 per unit, division B means receiving division. 14 per unit in one case, 18 per unit in another case from the outside vendor, what should be the maximum TP that division A can charge to remain competitive with the external vendor? Are you able to get me? Now very simple, see here, maximum TP. You need to think from whose point of view? Receiving division's point of view. I told you it is NMR, that is the money that receiving division possesses, or external buying price, whichever is less. Now let's take the first situation where external buying price is equal to how much? 14. Now let's calculate NMR, that is the money that receiving division possesses to buy from the supply division. Receiving division sells externally at 20 per unit and receiving division's own cost is 5 rupees. So it sells at 20 rupees externally minus it has its own cost, which is 5 rupees. So the money it has got in its pockets is 15 rupees. So 15 rupees, that is NMR, or 14 rupees, whichever is less. So the answer will be 14. Now in case if your external buying price is 18, that is this scenario. Anyway, its NMR will not change, which is 15. So whichever is less, the answer will be 15 in the second case. Okay. So the maximum TP will be 14 in the case of the first one. The maximum TP will be 15 in the case of the second one. Are you able to understand? I'm going at a very brisk pace. Why? Because we have to revise as early as possible. Are you able to understand? In the shortest time. That's why. So this is a rapid revision for people, okay, who wants to cover the entire chapter within 1.5 hours approximately. Okay. Right. Chalo. Next, coming on to the next one. Assume that intermediate goods of division A can be sold externally, okay, at 12 per unit. How does this opportunity cost affect the transfer price range when division B can procure the part externally at 14 per unit? Okay, now the logic is pretty simple. Division A is selling the product externally at 12 per unit. Variable cost of division A is how much, Nana? 10 per unit, which means its contribution is 2 per unit. So minimum TP is nothing but relevant cost of the supply division, which is nothing but variable cost plus opportunity cost. That is equal to variable cost is 10 plus opportunity cost is 2, which is nothing but contribution lost. That is equal to 12. That will be your minimum TP. Maximum TP, you need to think from external division's perspective. So when you think from external division's perspective, it has got its own money, that is NMR, which is 15, which we have already calculated. And external buying price is how much? 14. So whichever is less means the answer will be 14. So maximum TP is 14 and minimum TP is 12. That will be your answer for third part of the question. Got it, guys? Right, guys, let's move on to the next example. That is this one. Okay. So all of you guys keep your study material with you. Okay. Everything I'm doing it from the new study material. Okay. Keep that with you so that it will be easy for you to follow. Right. So a company has two divisions, A and B, making products A and B respectively. One unit of A is an input for each unit of B. B has a production capacity of 45,000 units and a ready market. Other information available regarding division A are, we got capacity which is 50,000, maximum external sales is 30, fixed cost up to 30,000 units. Okay, beyond 30,000 it increases by 50,000 for every 10,000, that is given. Variable manufacturing cost per unit 55, variable selling cost for external sales is 10, variable selling cost for special order or transfer to B is 5. So this is a point that you have to note. Always external sales, whatever the selling expenses that you incur on external sales will be high when compared to the selling expense on internal transfer. Selling price for the external market is 80. For special sales, it is 70. So B can buy the input A from outside at a slightly incomplete stage at 45 per unit and will incur subcontracting charges of 30 per unit to match it to the stage at which it receives the goods from division B. It receives the goods from division A. Division B is willing to pay a maximum of 75 per unit. Division A supplies its entire demand of 45,000 units. Okay, in case if the entire demand of 45,000 is met, then division B is willing to pay 75. Otherwise, it will pay only 70. Division A has also received a special order of 15,000 units. Either you can accept that in full or reject. Division A may choose to avoid variable selling cost of 5 per unit on transfer to B or special order, that is internal transfer or special order, by incurring a fixed cost of 50,000 instead, right? So you have two options. What is the best strategy of division A? Show the profitability of that option. What will be the range of TP B under if the best strategy is chosen? Okay. Now, very simple logic. If you want to choose best strategy, it is that strategy which gives you maximum profit or maximum contribution, right? Now, because there is no limiting factor in this particular question, we can easily say that we need to find contribution per unit to give this particular answer. That is the best strategy, because that option which has got highest contribution per unit will be the best strategy. As simple as that. Now, how to find contribution per unit? Very simple. Now, let's calculate contribution per unit for various options of division A. One is external sales is one option. Special order is another option. Coming on to internal transfer, you have two options. Less than 45,000, because he will be paying only 70, is equal to 45,000. He'll be paying what? 75. And then we need to calculate contribution. So it's very simple and straightforward. Manufacturing variable cost, copy paste from the question. Coming on to selling and distribution, on external sales, you'll incur 10. Whereas on internal transfer or special order, you have two choices which is given in the question. Either you can incur 5 rupees or you can incur what? 50,000. Now, how to decide which one to go for? Here, you need to apply the concept of indifference point. So that's where your concept has to click in your mind. Now, see here. So decision regarding 5,000 or 5 rupees per unit, which is nothing but 50,000 or 5 rupees per unit. Selling and distribution cost with respect to internal transfer or special order. For this, you need to apply the concept of indifference point. Okay, how? Why? Because in one option, you need to incur a high fixed cost and variable cost will be nil, which is low. In another option, your fixed cost will be nil, but your variable cost will be high. So when you have this sort of a situation, it is an ideal situation where we need to apply indifference point, where in one option, fixed cost is high and variable cost is low, and in another option, fixed cost is less and variable cost is high. Now, if you can see indifference point, the formula is pretty simple. Change in fixed cost divided by change in variable cost per unit. That is obviously the concept. Two options having different fixed cost and different variable cost. So naturally, the formula will be change in fixed cost divided by change in variable cost per unit. So in one option, so what is change in fixed cost? 50,000 minus 0, and change in variable cost 0 minus 5 rupees per unit. And you got your indifference point as how much? 10,000. So if it is less than 10,000, if it is less than indifference point, go for that option which has got low variable cost. Are you able to understand? Go for that option which has got low fixed cost. Is equal to indifference point, go for that option which has got either of the options should be fine for you. And greater than indifference point, go for that option which has got high fixed cost. This is generally the concept. So you should know the indifference point concept. Is that clear? So less than indifference point, always you'll go for that option which has got low fixed cost. Because your sales is less, you cannot take risk by going for that option which has got high fixed cost, because you may not recover that high fixed cost. Okay, therefore you'll go for that option which has got low fixed cost. Is equal to indifference point, because that is the point at which either of the options will give you same profit. So whichever option is okay for me. Greater than indifference point, because my sales is so huge, my fixed cost would have been recovered completely. Therefore, I'll go for that option which has got low variable cost. Incidentally, low variable cost option is nothing but high fixed cost option, because if you want to reduce your variable cost, you have to invest in fixed cost. That is a relationship. Anyways, so finally here, this is the situation. Now we need to analyze the situation over here. Your external sales is how much? 30,000. Your total capacity is 50,000. So there is a balance in capacity of 20,000. In this 20,000, what you will do? Either you'll go for a special order of 15,000 or you'll go for an internal transfer of 20,000. Are you able to understand? In the balance 20,000 capacity, presuming that you will do an external sales of 30,000. So which means in both the cases, it is greater than the indifference point of 10,000. Therefore, I'll go for 50,000 fixed cost option instead of going for 5 rupees variable selling cost option on my internal transfer as well as special order. Therefore, 50,000 option is chosen. And therefore, here when you are calculating your variable cost, you did not take 5 rupees here and you have left it blank. And finally, we have calculated our contribution per unit, which came 15, 15, 15 and 20. And therefore, this is the highest option. Which one? Internal transfer of complete 45,000 units to the receiving division. So therefore, finally, the best strategy will be internal transfer of 45,000 plus what you will do with the balance 5,000 units. These two options are mutually exclusive. Either you will do internal transfer which is equal to 45,000 or you will do internal transfer which is less than 45,000. So once you have selected an option to do internal transfer of 45,000, automatically this gets eliminated. Then only two options are available for you. One is external sales, other one is special order. Special order is like either you accept in full for 15,000 or you reject completely. Here I've got only 5,000 unit capacity left because 45,000 I'm going for internal transfer. Therefore, this option is also not possible. That's why I go for external sales. So finally, the best strategy is go for internal transfer of 45,000 units and external sales of 5,000 units. Got it? Chalo. And then you can just calculate profitability of that best strategy option. So 45,000 units into 20 rupees we have calculated here, multiply with, you'll get the total contribution. And 5,000 units of external sales, you got the contribution over here, which is 15. You multiply that, you get your total contribution. Reduce your normal fixed cost, which is 4,30,000 plus every 10,000 units increase in capacity, it will increase by 50,000. So earlier your capacity were 30,000, now it is 50,000. So 30,000 plus 10,000 units incremental for that 50,000, another 10,000 units incremental for that another 50,000. So totally 1 lakh will be the additional fixed cost in addition to 4,30,000. Total fixed cost will be 5,30,000 plus you have chosen based on indifference point that you are going to incur a fixed selling cost of 50,000 instead of variable selling cost of 5 rupees per unit, and therefore that 50,000 also you need to include over here, and finally you get a profit of 3,95,000. So that is the answer for the first part of the question. Coming on to the second part of the question, what will be the range of transfer price be under if the best strategy is chosen? Very simple. How to fix your TP? You need to have minimum TP as well as maximum TP. Now coming on to minimum TP, pretty simple. See here. Minimum TP is nothing but I told you so many times, variable cost plus opportunity cost. Now what is the opportunity cost over here that we need to understand? Now see Anna. What is the option that you have chosen? Internal transfer of 45,000 and external sales of 5,000. This is what you have chosen. What are the alternatives that is available? If you have not chosen this particular option, you could have gone for external sales of 30,000 units, special order of 15,000 units and internal transfer of 5,000. That is one option available. Or you could have gone for external sales of 30,000 and instead of special order, you could have gone for internal transfer, which is less than 45,000. That option is also available. In this case, it will be 20,000. So these are all two alternatives available apart from the best alternative which you have chosen. Now, why did you go for best alternative? Because it is giving you 20 rupees contribution for 45,000 units and 15 rupees contribution for 5,000 units. Whereas the alternative options are giving you only 15 rupees for the entire 50,000 units. Therefore, you went for this particular option, which means by going for this particular option, you have lost a contribution of how much? 15, and that becomes your opportunity cost. Are you able to get me? Right. Which means next best alternative. Opportunity cost concept is that only, na? Whatever the contribution or the benefit that you have lost from next best alternative. When compared to this particular alternative, there are two alternatives which is going to give you the same contribution of 15. Are you able to get me? So therefore, minimum TP is nothing but variable cost plus opportunity cost, and you add the opportunity cost 15 and your minimum TP will be 70. Okay, coming on to maximum TP, it is nothing but external buying price in this case. If you look at the question, he can buy from outside at 45 plus he has to incur 30 rupees. So total cost will be 75. If you keep anything more than 75, he'll buy from outside. He will not buy from you. Therefore, the maximum TP has to be 75. And some of you might have got a doubt, sir, what about the incremental fixed cost? Here you have calculated, na, incremental fixed cost of 1 lakh. Because it is additional, na, why didn't you add it when you are calculating what? Minimum TP. Now, we did not add it. Why? Because in all the options, your fixed cost is going to be 5,30,000. So it is not incremental. It is normal for all the options. This option it is 5,30,000 because you are using the entire 50,000 capacity. This option also it is 5,30,000. This option also it is 5,30,000. So when in all the options it is 5,30,000, there is no such thing called incremental. So in one option, suppose it is 4,30,000 and in another option, suppose it is 5,30,000, then you'll be adding it as incremental. Whichever option that you choose, anyway, you're operating in all the options at 50,000 capacity only. So there is no such thing called incremental over here. So I've written here, see, division A will work on full capacity irrespective of the options. Therefore, manufacturing fixed cost outlay will be the same, which is 5 lakh 30, right? Therefore, the impact of additional outlay of fixed cost, which is 1 lakh on minimum TP, will be nil. That's the reason I did not consider that. You got the point, right? Chalo. So we are done with this particular problem. Let's move on. Next one is proposals for resolving transfer pricing conflict. What do you mean by this? See, sometimes you will have a transfer pricing conflict where the divisional managers will not accept or agree for any transfer price whatsoever. They'll keep on fighting because the logic is very simple. Every individual divisional managers wants his profit to be more. So therefore, he will not accept any decision which will reduce his profit even though it is in the interest of the company. So this sort of a situation where individual divisional managers are not agreeing for a decision which is in the interest of the company, we call it as goal conflict situation. So to solve this sort of a situation, we have two solutions with us to resolve transfer pricing conflicts which affects the goal congruence. One is dual rate transfer pricing system, other one is two-part transfer pricing system. Now when compared to what has been explained over here, I'll try to explain you in a very simpler way. Thereby you can answer this case scenario also. This case scenario also, the solution for this case scenario is dual rate transfer pricing system as well as two-part transfer pricing system. So we'll cover that as well. Okay. Chalo, now see here. So what do you mean by this dual rate transfer pricing system? You'll have two rates, two different TPs. What are they? Supply and division in its books, it will write TP is equal to variable cost per markup. Let's take an example that variable cost is 10 rupees. And let's say markup is 2 rupees. It will write in its books as 12. Which one? Supply and division. Receiving division in its books, it will write TP as 10 rupees only. So there will be two TPs. That's why it is called dual rate. 12 rupees is one rate, 10 rupees is another rate. So now supply and division is happy. Why? Because it has got markup. So its profit will look healthy. So it is happy. It will get incentives. Receiving division is also happy because its cost is less, thereby its profit also will get increased. So it will also get incentives. So he is also happy. So therefore the transfer pricing conflict is resolved, and this sort of resolving transfer pricing conflict, we call it as dual rate TP system. Coming on to two-part TP system, what will happen is that here, if you look at the title, it is two parts. As a receiving division, I will give compensation to the supplying division, and my compensation will be of two parts. One part I'll compensate for the variable cost that is incurred by the supplying division. Another part I'll compensate for the fixed cost that is incurred by the supplying division. Normally, supplying division will not accept the transfer price which is equivalent to the variable cost. Why? Because it wants something up and above its variable cost, because there is something called fixed cost which has to be recovered. Are you able to get me? And that particular problem will be covered in two-part transfer pricing system, and that will be one of the reasons for conflict. Okay. So let's say supply and division's total capacity is 50,000. I just gave you example to make you understand this concept easily. So let's say total capacity of your supply and division is 50,000. And let's say external sales versus internal transfer is in the ratio of 4:1. So you are selling 40,000 units externally and 10,000 units internally. Let's say your variable cost per unit is 20. Whose variable cost? Supply and division's variable cost. And fixed cost is 1 lakh. Okay. Now look at the situation. Your fixed cost is 1 lakh, right? Your external sales is to internal transfer is 4:1, which means 4 parts of your fixed cost you recover from outside, from your external sales. And 1 part of your fixed cost you can recover from inside, that is internal transfer, which is 20,000. Therefore, finally TP is equal to 2 parts. One is compensation towards variable cost, other one is compensation towards fixed cost. Variable cost is nothing but 20 per unit into 10,000 units. Fixed cost compensation is 20,000, which you have calculated here. Okay. And finally, 2,20,000 will be your lump sum consideration. This two-part transfer pricing method can also be called as lump sum consideration. Are you able to understand? Where one part which compensates variable cost incurred by the supplying division, another part which compensates the fixed cost. Are you able to understand? So this we call it as two-part transfer pricing system. Okay. Got it, guys? Right, guys, let's move on to the next concept, that is international transfer pricing. Chalo, see here. why there is something called international transfer pricing? That is due to MNCs. Are you able to get me? Pretty simple. Now, why there is a concept called multinational companies? Why the companies have got their establishment in multiple countries? It is either because of availability of resources. For example, raw material is available in a particular country, thereby I'll have an establishment over there. Or cheap labor is available, for example, China. Or ease of doing business, that is also China. Okay, in India it got improved recently. Demand for finished goods, this is one of the reasons why India is attracting FDIs. Okay, please try to understand, we are not getting foreign direct investments just because we have ease of doing business or cheap labor. Our labor is not as cheap as China, to be very honest, not even as cheap as Philippines. But why are we getting a lot of investments? Why are we getting it attracted? Because if a particular company makes an establishment in India and it manufactures cars or bikes, for example, it can sell in India itself because there is that much of sufficient domestic demand in India itself. That is one of the major reasons why we are attracting a lot of foreign investment. Anyways, so now why do we need TP here when it comes to international transfer pricing? There are two reasons. One is taxation, other one is profit remittance. Taxation means you guys already have an idea. So when there are group companies where you have a holding company in US and subsidiary in India and China, they want to set up the international transfer in such a way that the overall tax payment for the group as a whole should be at its minimum. Profit remittance rules means, for example, you have KFC over in India and it has got a lot of establishments. Ultimately, its parent company is in US, and whatever the profit that it has earned in India, it wants to remit it back to its source, right, which is nothing but in the US. So that we call it as profit repatriation or profit remittance. Are you able to understand? So whichever country where the profit remittance or repatriation rules is easier, in that country, they will ensure that the profit is high. Accordingly, they'll fix the TP. That is the whole concept over here. Same logic applies to taxation as well. Whichever country where the taxation is less, in that particular country, they will ensure that either whether there is a supplying division or receiving division doesn't matter. In which country where they have less taxes, in that particular country, whatever the division they have got, they would like that particular division to earn more profit such that they will pay less taxes. Coming on to profit remittance rules, whichever country where they have easy rules with respect to profit remittance, they would like that particular country's division to earn more profit such that they can transfer the profit to their source company, which is in US, in an easier way. Are you able to understand? That's how the whole logic of international transfer pricing goes. Chalo. Now let's try to solve the first example. A car manufacturing company has two manufacturing divisions in different countries. Division A in India manufactures engines for the cars. It has the capacity to manufacture 10,000 units in each year. The variable cost of production is 8,000. It can sell 8,000 engines externally to customers within India at 11,000 per unit. The other division, Division B, is in Italy that requires 5,000 engines every year to assemble them further into cars. It purchases these engines from a vendor in Italy at a price that is equivalent to 9,000 per unit. If Division B were to purchase these units from Division A, the transfer price would be 10,000 per unit. Since no selling expense need to be incurred on internal sales, variable cost on such transfers would be 7,000 per unit. If Division A accepts the internal order from Division B, it will have to curtail some of its external sales. Given that the tax rate is 30% in India and 40% in Italy, determine if the company will benefit overall if Division B purchase from Division A. That is the question. Obviously, it will benefit easily, you can say. Why? Because if you can see, Division A is not losing anything. Anyway, we'll see the calculation. You'll understand. See here. First of all, let's calculate benefit to Division A. Then we'll calculate benefit or cost to Division B. Then we'll set up both of them and we'll see what is the overall benefit from the company's point of view. Existing external sales of Division A is 8,000 units. It is selling to outside. Okay. So if the internal transfer of Division B is accepted, then Division A has to sacrifice 3,000 units of external sales. So thereby the sales mix will be external sales of 5,000. Earlier it used to be 8,000, but 3,000 has to be sacrificed because only then you will be able to transfer internally 5,000 units. So after the sacrifice of 3,000 units of external sales is done, the sales mix of the supply division, that is Division A, will be external sales of 5,000, internal transfer of 5,000. Now contribution that it is getting from external sales, it is selling at 11,000 and its variable cost is 8,000, which is 3,000. On internal transfer also it will be 3,000. Why? Because even though you are selling at 1,000 less, your cost also will get reduced by 1,000. Thereby your contribution remains same. So from this, what you guys need to understand is, even though division B has sacrificed 3000 units of external sales, it has got compensated in the same way from internal transfer of not only 3000 but 2000 units extra. So therefore, gross benefit for division A is equal to 5000 into 3000, 5000 into 3000. Whether it is external sales or internal transfer, its contribution is same. Earlier, it used to get only 8000 units, which is external sales, and it used to get 3000 as contribution per unit. But now it is getting 10,000 into 3000. Therefore, additional 2000 units contribution as a what into 3000. So there is a gross benefit of 60 lakhs. Whenever there is a gross benefit, that is inflow, you need to pay taxes at 30%. Thereby, your net benefit will be 42 lakhs. Okay. So ultimately, for supply division or division A, there is a net positive benefit of 42 lakhs. Now coming on to the receiving division, if you can see, additional cost for receiving division because it is buying from division B will be 1000 rupees extra. Because earlier it was paying only 9000, but now it has to pay 10,000. Therefore, for every unit it has to pay 1000 extra for 5000 units. So therefore, it has to pay 50 lakh extra. So we cannot say there is a total loss of 50 lakhs. Why? Because when there is loss, you'll be having tax benefit, because that loss will reduce your taxable profit. To that extent, you'll pay less taxes. So the tax benefit is 40% in that particular country. Therefore, the net loss is only 30 lakhs. So for division A, there is a net benefit of 42 lakhs. For division B, there is a net loss of 30 lakhs. So overall benefit for the company will be 12 lakhs positive. Since there is a positive net benefit of 12 lakhs, division B should purchase engines internally from division A will be your final answer. Got the point, guys? All of you, I hope this is clear. Right, guys, let's move on to the next question. So this is question number 1 over here in test your knowledge. G is transferring division and R, the receiving division of the company. R has a demand for 20% of G's production capacity, which has to be first met as per the company's policy. See, 20% is of the 100% capacity, okay, because the capacity is 100%. State with reason which division G or R enjoys more advantage in each of the following independent situations, assuming that there is no inventory buildup. First one, G transfers to R at a transfer price equal to full cost. There is no markup. This will be your TP. G's production level is 60%. Always remember, fixed cost will be related to the level of the production that you are operating right now. So even though your capacity is 100%, you are operating at a production level of 60%. So fixed cost will be equivalent to that particular capacity, which is 60%. External demand is 40% of the total capacity. All these percentages are percentage of the total capacity. Okay. So total capacity is 100%. Out of that, he is operating at 60%. Okay. Out of the total capacity, 40% is the external demand. And out of the total capacity, 20% is what the internal transfer they are planning to happen. So which division will have more advantage? Is it the supply division or the receiving division? Now, here you are transferring at TP, which is equal to full cost. Thereby, supply division, that is G, will be at more advantage. Why? Because G is recovering its full fixed cost because of additional internal transfer of 20%. Chalo, see here. G is at advantage because even though the current production level of G is 60%, to which fixed cost is related, okay, because that's the production level that it is operating right now. It is selling only 40% to the external market. Therefore, only that portion of its own fixed cost is getting recovered due to external sales, and the balance fixed portion is not getting recovered. So by transferring 20% of its own production capacity, of its total production capacity to division R on full cost plus basis, what is the advantage? G will be able to recover all of its fixed cost. Are you able to understand? So ultimately, the division that will be at its advantage is G. Now, coming on to the next one. Market price. If G is transferring to R at a market price and G's current production level is 80% and its external demand is only 60%, you can easily guess again G will be at its advantage. So what is the reason behind that? G is operating at production level of 80% but only able to sell only 60% to the external market. By internal transfer of 20% of its production capacity to R, that too at market price, it is not only recovering its fixed cost, but also it is getting some markup. So ultimately, G is having absolute advantage. Next, marginal cost. If you transfer internally at marginal cost, when your production level is 100% and your external demand is what, Nana? 80%. So who is at advantage? Obviously, in this case, obviously, R is at advantage. Why? because R is getting at the least cost possible. Always the least cost possible is marginal cost. And with respect to G, it is transferring 20% capacity to R, but it is recovering only marginal cost. So it is not recovering fixed cost. It is not getting any sort of markup. So whether it transfers the 20% at marginal cost or it doesn't transfer, it doesn't make any difference for G. So G will remain the same. Therefore, G is not getting any sort of advantage. R is getting advantage. Have a look at this. G is operating at current production level of 100%. External sales demand is only 80%, which implies that only 80% of its fixed cost is getting recovered. By internal transfer of 20% of production capacity at marginal cost, division G is not able to recover its total fixed cost. On the other hand, division R is able to get its intermediate product from division G at marginal cost itself, which is the lowest possible price, which I have told you. So from this whole setup, ultimately division R is getting the advantage, not division G, because division G is neither recovering its fixed cost nor it is getting any sort of profit markup. Coming on to the last setup, that is market price. Okay, if you transfer your internal product at market price, when you are operating at 100% production level, okay, and your external demand is 90%, who will be at advantage? Again G, not R. Why? You can say, sir, 20% it has to transfer internally. So the capacity that is left over is only 10%, which means it has to sacrifice external sales of 10%. Yes, but really it is not sacrificing anything. Why? Because it is transferring at market price only, na? So even if external sales is sacrificed at 10%, internally also it is transferring at market price only. So ultimately division G will not lose anything. Instead, it will gain because of that sacrifice. It is able to utilize the additional 10% of its capacity. Now what will happen? 80% will be your external sales and 20% will be your internal transfer at market price only. So in fact, virtually it is using 100% of its capacity at market price. Earlier, only 90% of its capacity is being sold at a market price. Therefore, G will be at its advantage. So, G is currently operating at production level of 100%. External sales is 90%. Internal transfer is 20%. So, for that, G has to sacrifice 10% of its external sales. But since internal transfer price is also market price, G does not lose anything. Instead, G is able to sell additional 10% of its capacity at market price. Therefore, from this whole setup, who is at advantage? G is at advantage. Got the point? Right, guys, let's move on to the next problem. So B Limited makes 3 products X, Y and Z in divisions X, Y and Z respectively. The following information is given. So you have direct material excluding material X for divisions Y and Z, which means this is further processing cost of Y, this is further processing cost of Z. Okay, direct labor, variable overhead per unit, selling price to outside customers, existing capacity, maximum market demand, additional fixed cost that would be incurred to install additional capacity, and maximum additional units that can be produced by additional capacity. Right, Nana. So maximum external market demand of units is 5,000, 5,500 and 5,000. Okay, additional fixed capacity that would be incurred to install additional capacity is given. How much additional capacity is also given. Y and Z need material X as their input. Material X is available in the market at 23 per unit. Defectives can be returned to suppliers at their cost. Division X supplies the material fee free from defects and hence is able to sell at 25 per unit. Okay, so it is able to sell at a premium. Each unit of Y and Z requires 1 unit of X with slight modification. If Y purchased from outside at 23 per unit, it has to incur 3 rupees per unit. So the total modification cost, total cost inclusive of modification is 26. If Y purchased from division X, it has to incur in addition to the transfer price 2 rupees per unit to modify it. If Z gets the material from division X, it can use it after incurring a modification cost of 1 rupee per unit. If Z buys material X from outside, it has to either inspect and modify it at its own shop floor at rupees 5 per unit or use idle labor from division X at 3 per unit. Division X will lend its idle labor as per Z's requirement even if Z purchases the material from outside. The transfer price are at the discretion of the divisional managers and will remain confidential. Assume no restriction on quantities of interdivisional transfers or purchases. You are required to discuss with relevant figures the best strategy for each division and the company as a whole. That is the question. See, understand one thing. So, best strategy means obviously there is no limiting factor over here. Obviously we can say capacity is a limiting factor, but obviously we're going to find out contribution per limiting factor, which is nothing but contribution per unit. So ultimately our first step is calculation of contribution per unit. How many columns are we going to get? Now that will be a challenge. So particulars X, Y and Z, 3 broad columns. Below that, X will be making external sales, X will be making internal transfer. Under internal transfer, you'll have internal transfer to Y, internal transfer to Z. Are you able to understand? So X, Y, Z. Under X, external sales, then internal transfer to Y to Z. Are you able to understand? Under Y, it will buy from X, it will buy from outside. So for that, 2 columns. Under Z, it can also buy from X, it can also buy from outside. Are you able to understand? Like this, you need to frame the columns first of all. Once you're able to frame the columns, rest is all about having your mindset and then solving the sum. Okay, once you have read the sum clearly, your answer will be, I think it should be quite simple. Anyways, now. So now see here guys, so that's what I've written. The division X, Y and Z. Under division X, you have got external sales and internal transfer. Under internal transfer, you have got internal transfer to Y, internal transfer to Z. When it comes to division Y, it can buy from outside, that is external vendor. It can also buy from inside. So 2 columns. Coming on to division Z, I have written only buying from inside, although there is a possibility to buy from outside. What is the reason behind that? I'll explain you later. Because obviously it's better to buy from inside than to buy from outside. That I have visualized it the moment I've read the question. That's why I've written 1 column. If you are not able to visualize it that way, you can write 1 more column also. It's okay. It's fine. Chalta hai. Now obviously your target is to calculate contribution per unit. So obviously what you will do, selling price minus all variable cost will give you contribution per unit. Simple. Let's start with selling price. Division X is making external sales. So obviously it is 25 given in the question. When it comes to internal transfer, it is 24. Why it is 24? The logic is very simple. Division Y can buy from outside vendor at 26. How? 23 it can pay plus 3 rupees will be the modification cost. So the total cost that will be incurred for division Y is 26, which implies that for internal transfer or for internal buying from division Y, it will not pay anything more than 26, correct? Right? Logic is very simple. It can buy from outside. So external buying price is 26, which is 23 plus 3 rupees of modification cost, which means from internally also it will not pay anything more than 26. That's obvious. So if it buys at a price of 25 and it requires a modification cost of 2 rupees, even from internal transfer also, then its total cost will become 27. So it will not accept 27 when it can buy at 26 from outside. Therefore, to keep the total cost at 26, the transfer price cannot be more than what? 24. That is the reason we have written the selling price or the transfer price as 24. Then only it is 24 plus 2 rupees modification cost. It will be 26 because from outside it can buy at 26, which is 23 plus 3. Are you able to get me? Right. That's the thing. So as you can see, the intermediate product purchase cost from outside it is 23 plus 3, 26. From inside 24 plus 2, 26. Are you able to get me? Now coming on to division Z, you can transfer internally at division Z for 25. How, sir? Very simple. See here. Coming on to division Z, it has got 3 options. Option 1, 2 and 3. First option is it can buy from outside at 23. It can incur a modification cost of 5 rupees and thereby its total cost will be 28. That is one option. Straight away this option is gone because it is very costly. Second option is it can buy internally from division X at a price of 25 plus incur a modification cost of 1 rupee. Thereby its total cost will be 26. Third option is it can buy from outside at 23 plus use direct labor from division X at 3 rupees per unit. Thereby its total cost can be 26 itself, which is similar to the internal transfer. But to make this option work, that is option 3. First of all, division X should have some sort of idle labor. But there is no idle labor in division X. That you can easily understand from the nature of the question. In that case, this option is also not available. So therefore, only option 2 is available. That is the reason it can buy only from division X. Therefore, here I have written only 1 column for division Z, that is buying from division X only. I did not write another column where it can buy from outside. I hope you have understood this particular logic. And that's why you have got 25 over here. Apart from that, remaining everything is normal. Direct material copy paste from the question, labor copy paste from the question, variable overheads copy paste from the question. With respect to intermediate product purchase cost, these 3 figures are nothing but these 2 figures. Are you able to understand? Because your internal transfer price is nothing but your, transfer price is nothing but your intermediate product purchase cost. So division Y buys from division X at 24 plus it spends 2 rupees for modification cost. So 26. If it buys from outside, it is 23 plus 3 rupees modification cost. Division Z buys from division X at 25. Okay, division Z buys from division X at 25 plus incurs a modification cost of 1 rupee. Therefore, its cost is 26. Apart from that, no other thing is required. No other thing requires your attention because everything is copy paste from the question. You got it, guys? Chalo. Finally, what is your best strategy? Obviously, for division X, first it will go for external sales because there is lot of contribution, which is 11. Then it will go for internal transfer to division Z because it is getting maximum contribution, which is 11 again. At last, it will go for internal transfer to division Y. That is what division X will do. Division Y and Z, there is no much of a strategy over here because all its production is being sold outside only. So all its sales will be sold externally. So there is nothing much to think here when it comes to division Y and division Z because everything that they manufacture will be sold externally. There ends the matter. So best strategy for division X, right now you cannot answer. You can ask me, why sir? Why? Because we haven't made any decision with respect to the additional capacity. Unless you have taken a decision with respect to additional capacity, whether you are going to invest in additional capacity or not, you cannot say what is your best strategy because best strategy includes the number of units that you are going to sell outside or transfer inside. That you cannot answer without taking a decision with respect to additional capacity. Are you able to get me? So now we need to take decision with respect to additional capacity. How are we going to take that decision? Now see here. Existing capacity is 6,000, 3,000 and 3,000. Additional capacity that you can add is 6,000, 2,000 and 2,250. It is there from the question, copy paste. So total capacity after you have added additional capacity will be 12,000, 5,000 and 5,250 for the respective divisions. Okay. Now, so for division X, what will happen? What it will do with this 12,000 capacity after the additional capacity has been added? The first preference will be external sales because it has got 11 rupees as contribution. To the extent of 5,000 units, it can sell externally because that is a demand which is available outside. Second preference will be internal transfer. Are you able to understand? To division Z because it gets 11 rupees again here as well. And how much it will transfer to division Z? How much is the external demand of division Z? That much I will transfer internally because division Z will buy only to the extent of its external demand, right? Division Z can sell 5,000 units externally, which means it will buy 5,000 units internally. And last preference will go for division Y because it gives only 10 rupees. How much is left over out of 12,000? 5,000 is gone here, 5,000 is gone here, 2,000 will be going for internal transfer to division Y. Is that clear? Now, coming on to these three, how it is going to happen? Now listen carefully. This is the existing capacity, correct? 6,000. From this 6,000, from this existing capacity of 6,000, okay, external sales will go first. Just imagine first in, first out basis, okay, FIFO method. So first capacity is your existing capacity, not the additional capacity. From this existing capacity of 6,000, 5,000 external sales will go. Are you able to understand? Still, how much is left over in your existing capacity of 6,000? 1,000 is left over. That 1,000 will be utilized for internal transfer to division Z plus remaining 4,000 will go from this 6,000, correct? Your total transfer internally to division Z is how much? 5,000. Are you able to understand? How are you going to work out this 5,000? From this 6,000, 1,000 is left over, right? Plus from this additional 6,000, you will be utilizing 4,000. That's what I've written here. 1,000 from existing capacity, easy. 4,000 from additional capacity, AC. And then from additional capacity, 2,000 is left over. That will be utilized for internal transfer of 2,000. This is very important. This is the only challenging part in this entire question. How this 12,000 will be utilized. From this first 6,000 existing capacity, 5,000 external sales will happen and 1,000 will go for internal transfer. And from this 6,000, 4,000 will go for internal transfer to division Z. So 4,000 plus 1,000 from existing capacity. You got the point? That's what I've written here. And from this 6,000, the balance 2,000 will go for internal transfer to division Y. Last preference. Because you get only 10 rupees contribution from this. When it comes to division Y and division Z, nothing much to think. Everything they will do, it will go for external sales only. So entire capacity will be utilized for external sales, nothing much to think over here. Okay. Now once we know this, we need to take a decision whether we should invest in additional capacity or not. How to take that decision? Very simple. If I invest in additional capacity, I need to invest in additional fixed cost. That is cost for me. How much is the additional contribution that I'm getting because of additional sales, because of additional capacity? Compare both of them. Additional contribution that I get from additional sales because of additional capacity minus additional fixed cost that you have incurred. Are you able to get me? So that's what we are doing here. See here. Additional contribution that you are getting from additional capacity. This is the most challenging part. How did I calculate the 64,000? This is my additional capacity 6,000. Reverse working. How are you utilizing the 6,000? Last 2,000 you are using for internal transfer to division Y. So 2,000 into 10. 10 rupees is the contribution if you transfer to division Y. Plus in this 5,000 only 4,000 you are utilizing from additional capacity. So 4,000 into 11 plus 2,000 into 10. You got the point. That's how I got the calculation over here. Got it? And you have got this additional capacity. Coming on to Y and Z, it's pretty simple. Okay. Your additional capacity is 2,000, which means 2,000 extra sales you are making. So 2,000 extra sales into the contribution that we have calculated already here, which is 9. Are you able to get me? So pretty simple. And even when it comes to division Z also, it is pretty simple. His external sales is 3,000 from his existing capacity. And because of additional capacity, even though 2,250 additional capacity is added, he can sell only 2,000 extra because his market itself is 5,000. So therefore 2,000 he'll sell extra. His contribution we already know, which is 14. So multiply with 14, there ends the matter. Okay. Now this much additional contribution you are receiving from additional capacity minus additional cost is this much. Copy paste from the question. We have got positive net benefit in all the three cases. Therefore your decision is to go for expansion, expansion, expansion. If it is negative, we'll say stick with your existing capacity. Do not go for expansion. Are you able to get me? So finally, the best strategy is for division X, sell 5,000 units externally, internal transfer of 5,000 units to division Z, then internal transfer of 2,000 units to division Y. And division Y will buy this 2,000 units from X and the balance 3,000 will be bought from outside. And ultimately everything will be sold externally. Division Z will directly buy all the 5,000 units, all its requirement from division X, and all the requirement, whatever that it has manufactured will be sold externally. Finally, accordingly, you can calculate profitability for your best strategy. Very simple. Just multiply with contribution, which we have calculated in the first step. Reduce the fixed cost, you get your answer. Fixed cost is given in the question. Okay, fixed cost for additional capacity is given. For existing capacity, fixed cost is not given. Therefore, we are not reducing it. As simple as that. You got this, guys? All of you? Right now, I hope this one is clear. Chalo, let's move on to the next one. Take this question. Centurion Company operates a pulp division that manufactures wood pulp for use in production of various paper goods. The following information are available. Selling price is 210. Variable expenses 126. Contribution is 84. Less fixed expenses based on a capacity of 1 lakh is 54. Net income is given, which is 30. Okay. Centurion Company has just acquired a small company that manufactures paper cartons. This company will be treated as a division of Centurion with full profit responsibility, which means they are operating at full capacity, okay, and they are selling all these units to the external market. That's the logic generally when you use the word full profit responsibility. The newly formed carton division is currently purchasing 10,000 kgs of pulp per year from a supplier at a cost of 210 less 10% quantity discount, which means 189. Yeah. Centurion's president is anxious that the carton division begins purchasing its pulp from the pulp division if an acceptable transfer price can be worked out. So three situations are given. First one, if the pulp division is in a position to sell all of its pulp to the external customers at a normal price of 210, will the managers of carton and pulp division agree to transfer 10,000 kgs of pulp next year at a determined price? Explain with reasons. Situation 2, assuming that the pulp division is currently selling only 60,000 kgs of pulp each year to outside customers at a stated price of 210 per kg, will the managers agree to mutually transfer, mutually at an acceptable transfer price for 10,000 kgs of pulp next year? Explain with reasons. Situation 3, if the outside supplier of carton division reduces its price to 177 per kg, will the pulp division meet this price? Explain. If the pulp division does not meet the price of 177 per kg, what will be the effect of profits on the company as a whole? That is a question. Okay. Right. Let's start answering this. Pretty simple. See, Nana. First of all, let's take situation 1. Minimum TP, I told you, you need to think from supply division's point of view. It is nothing but total relevant cost of the supply division. What is relevant cost of the supply division? Right now it is operating at full profit responsibility, which means entire capacity is being utilized to sell externally. So anything that it has to transfer internally can happen only by sacrificing the external sales. Therefore, when you sacrifice the external sales, you will be losing a selling price. At the same time, you will be saving the cost. So therefore, what you ultimately lose is the contribution. So selling price minus variable cost, this much you will lose. That becomes opportunity cost, right? So variable cost plus opportunity cost will be your minimum TP, which comes to 210. Coming on to maximum TP, you need to think from receiving division's point of view. It is the money that receiving division possess, which is NMR, or the external buying price, whichever is less. External buying price right now is 210 minus 10%, which is 189. Therefore, minimum TP is 120, maximum TP is 189, which means internal transfer will not happen. Got the point? Pretty clear. Right. Moving on to situation 2. So what is happening in situation 2? Assuming that pulp division is currently selling only 60,000 kgs of pulp each year to the outside customers. Okay. And at the stated price of 210. Will the managers agree for a mutually acceptable transfer price for 10,000 kgs of pulp in the next year? Explain with reasons. Pretty simple. So in situation 2, minimum TP is equal to variable cost only. Why? Because you are selling only 60,000 kgs to outside, which means the balance capacity is left over. You can utilize the balance capacity and transfer internally, which means what you will be incurring only is variable cost. Therefore, minimum TP will be variable cost, which is 126 from supply and division's point of view. Now from receiving division's point of view, obviously it is external buying price, which is 189. So therefore, this will be your TP range, minimum, maximum range. So therefore, there will be internal transfer possible in situation 2. So any TP within the above range is a good TP, is an agreeable TP, and internal transfer will eventually happen. Right. Coming on to situation 3. If the outside supplier of the cotton division reduces its price to 177 per kg, will the pulp division meet this price? Explain. If the pulp division does not meet the price of 177, what will be the effects on the profits? What will be the effect on profits of the company as a whole? But in situation 3, he did not explain you whether the supply division is operating at full capacity or 60,000 capacity, like in situation 1 or situation 2. That he did not say. So we will answer from both the perspectives. Okay. Chalo. Assumption number 1. It is assumed that pulp division is selling 60% of its capacity externally. In that case, obviously your minimum TP is 126, which is variable cost, because there is no external sales sacrifice. So therefore, there is no opportunity cost. Maximum TP will be the external buying price, which is nothing but 177 as given in the question in situation 3. Therefore, this will be the TP range. Okay. So, we got the point? Right. So, if there is no internal transfer, then there will be loss, right? If pulp division does not meet the price of 177, then cotton division will buy from outside vendor. And because of this, the supply division will lose this much, because supply division, it will cost only 126 to manufacture. And if at all it would have agreed the TP of 177, it would have gained 51 rupees per unit for all the units that it has internally transferred. Because instead of keeping your capacity idle, you could have transferred internally and you could have earned a profit of 51. Are you able to understand? Therefore, loss also for the company will be 51. How it will be loss for the company? Because from company's perspective, the receiving division is buying from outside at 177 when company can manufacture at 126. So company also will lose 51 rupees. So therefore, 5,10,000 will be lost. So which is pretty bad. Assumption 2. Let's presume that pulp division is operating at 100% capacity and all of its capacity is being sold to the external market. In that case, the minimum TP will be 210. Variable cost plus opportunity cost, just like in the first situation. Is that clear? You got this? External buying price maximum TP will be 177 because receiving division will not pay more than 177 when it can buy from outside at 177, which means no internal transfer will happen. Are you able to understand? That's obvious. Because if internal transfer happens, company will lose 210 minus 126. That is the loss of sacrifice of external sales, which is 84. And what you are gaining because of internal transfer, your receiving division will not buy at 177. Instead, you will manufacture internally at 126. So you will gain only 51. Ultimately, you will lose 33. So total loss for the company will be 3,30,000. Therefore, internal transfer should not happen if it goes by assumption 2, where supply division is selling its entire sales to the external market and it is operating at full capacity. You got the point, guys? Yes. So with this, we are done with this particular problem. Right, guys. Let's move on to the next question. This one, sixth one. GE Limited is a multi-product manufacturing concern functioning with 4 divisions. The electrical division of the company is producing many electrical products, including electrical switches. This division, functioning at its maximum capacity, sells its switches in the open market at 25 each. The variable cost per switch to the division is 16. The household division, another division of GL Limited, functioning at 70% capacity, asked the electrical division to supply 5,000 switches per month at a rate of 18 each to fit in night lamps produced by it. The total total cost per night lamp is being estimated as detailed below. Components purchased from outside suppliers 50, switch if purchased internally 18, other variable cost 40, fixed overheads 21, total cost per night lamp is 129. The household division is marketing night lamps at a price of 130 each with a very small margin as it is doing business in a very competitive environment. Any increase in price made by the division will push out the division from the market. Therefore, the division cannot pay anything more to switches if they, that is from electrical division. Anyways, further, the manager of the division informed that it is very much essential to keep on the market share for night lamps by the household division to retain the experienced workers of the division. The company is using return on investments as a scale to measure the divisional performance and also marginal costing approach for decision making. So this has come in your examination. First one, would you recommend the supply of switches to household division by electrical division at a price of 18 each? Substantiate your recommendation with suitable reasons. Analyze whether it would be beneficial to the company as a whole the supply of switches to household divisions at a unit price of 18 by electrical division. Do you feel the divisional managers should accept the interdivisional transfers in principle? If yes, what should be the range of TP? Fourth one, suggest the steps to be taken by the chief executive of the company to change the attitude of the divisional heads if they are against interdivisional transfers. Got the point? That is a question. Chalo, let's start answering the first one. Would you recommend the supply of switches to household divisions by electrical division at a price of 18 each? Now see here, again we need to calculate minimum TP from supply division's point of view. Okay, so total relevant cost of the supply division is nothing but your TP. So many times I've told you, variable cost plus opportunity cost, because it is selling all its units to the external market at a price of 25 where the variable cost is 16, which means your contribution will be 9, which you will be losing if you want to sacrifice your external sales for the sake of internal transfer, which means your opportunity cost will be 9 and your variable cost is 16. Therefore, your minimum TP will be 25. Whereas the price quoted by the household division is only 18. So since 18 is less than 25, electrical division will not accept that particular TP. Also, the company is measuring the performance based on return on investment. So if the electrical division accepts 18 as its TP, thinking that its variable cost is 16, suppose, then its ROI will be adversely affected. Why? Because its profit will drop. Ultimately, return on investment will drop, which will hurt its incentives. Therefore, supply division will never accept. Are you able to get me? So, electrical division will never ever accept. Got it? So, that's the answer for first part of the question. So, we have also substantiated our recommendation with suitable reasons. Next, analyze whether it would be beneficial for the company as a whole if the supply of switches to household division at a unit price of 18 by electrical division. So in first case, we have straight away said that it is not in the benefit of electrical division to transfer at 18 rupees. Why? Because its cost itself is what? 25. Therefore, it will not transfer, and that too it will affect its divisional performance evaluation as well, because it is being evaluated based on ROI. Now in the second question, we are asking not from electrical division's perspective, not from supply division's perspective, but from the perspective of the company as a whole. Let us see whether the answer will change or not. Okay, now see here. Calculation of the benefit from the company's point of view. So company ultimately has got two choices. It can sell switches externally. That is, it can ask the electrical division to sell it outside directly. If that happens, the selling price is 25 and the variable cost is 16. The company will get 9 rupees. Whereas the other option for the company is not to sell switches externally. Instead, it can ask the electrical division to transfer the switches internally to household division and convert them into lamps and sell lamps externally. If this happens, then the selling price of the lamps will be 130. The incremental cost, the further processing cost of converting the switches into lamps is component cost, which is 50, other variable cost, which is 40, that is relevant. Fixed cost is not relevant. Are you able to understand? Yes. Apart from that, variable cost of electrical division is also important, which is supply division, which will be 16. So this is cost of receiving division, these two. Okay, and these two is the cost of supply division. That is the total cost for the company as a whole, total relevant cost. So from 130, if you reduce the total relevant cost, company can earn 24 rupees for every unit if it converts the switches into lamps and sells it as lamps. Now tell me, company would like to earn 24 or 15, I mean, sorry, or 9. It would like to earn 24, which means there is an additional benefit of 15. Therefore, from company's point of view, internal transfer is more profitable because the company earns 15 rupees extra. So if you sell externally the switches, company will earn only 9 rupees. If you convert that by transferring it internally into lamps and then sell it as lamps, the company is earning 24. So therefore, from company's point of view, it's beneficial to transfer internally and then convert that into lamps and then sell it as lamps. Got it? Chalo, next. Coming on to third part of the question. Do you feel that divisional managers should accept the interdivisional transfers in principle? If yes, what should be the TP? Let's try to fix the TP now. So you know that minimum TP is nothing but VC plus OC, which is 25. This we have already calculated as first part of the question. Maximum TP, you need to think from receiving division's perspective, and there are only two options. The money that receiving division possesses, which is nothing but NMR, or the external buying price, whichever is less. Now NMR is nothing but net marginal revenue, final sales revenue minus further processing cost. What is the final sales revenue? Here we have calculated 130 minus further processing cost is nothing but cost of the receiving division, which is 50 plus 40, which is 90. So 130 minus 90, receiving division has got 40 in its pockets to pay to the supplying division. Are you able to understand? For buying the intermediate product. You got it? External buying price, there is no information in the question, so let's forget about it. So 40 it has got in its pockets. Are you able to understand? So which means the maximum TP can be 40 and the minimum TP can be 25. So there is a possibility of internal transfer. Are you able to get me? Right. So this can be your TP range. And finally, suggest the steps to be taken by chief executive of the company to change the attitude of the divisional heads if they are against the interdivisional transfers. That we have already seen. So this is a goal conflict scenario where these individual divisional managers, they are fighting with each other. They are not agreeing for a good transfer price. Then the solution can be two. Either it can be dual rate transfer pricing system, or it can be two-part transfer pricing system, and which we have told you already. So there are two solutions: dual rate, two-part. You got the point, right? So that's it. We are done with this particular sum. Okay, guys, let's look at the final question, which is 7th one of our current session, because I wanted to get this under 1.5 hours. That's why I'm going very fast. Even my throat is also paining. It's okay, right? So this will be the last one. It's a good one. It's a big one as well. Okay, with this we'll wind up the session. Right, chalo, now see. Great Vision manufactures a wide range of optical products, including lenses and surveillance cameras. Division A manufactures the lenses, while Division B manufactures surveillance cameras. Okay. The lenses that Division A manufactures is of standard quality that has a number of applications. Due to huge demand in the market for its products, Division A is operating at full capacity. Okay. It sells its lenses in the open market for 140 per lens. The variable cost of the production for each lens is 110, while the total production cost is 125 per lens. Okay. The total production cost of the camera by Division B is 400 each. Currently, Division B procures lens from foreign vendors. The cost per lens would be 170. The management of the Great Vision has proposed to take advantage of the in-house production capabilities, and consequently, the procurement cost of lens would reduce. It is proposed that Division B should buy an average of 5,000 lenses each month from Division A at 120 per lens. The estimate cost of the surveillance camera is as below. Other components purchased from external vendors 150, cost of lens purchased from Division A 120, other variable cost 30, fixed overheads 50, total cost of the camera 350. Each surveillance camera is sold for 410. The margin for each camera is low since competition in the market is high. Any increase in price of the camera would reduce the market share. Therefore, Division B cannot pay Division A beyond 120 per lens procured. Great Vision's management uses return on investment as a scale to measure the divisional performance and marginal costing approach for decision making. So first one, analyze the behavioral consequences of each division when Division A supplies lenses to Division B at 120 per lens. Substantiate your answer based on the information given in the problem. Okay. So let's have a look into that. So behavioral consequences of Division A. Division A is currently operating at full capacity, that is given in the question, which means its entire production is being sold to the external market. So when you have to transfer internally, obviously what will be your minimum TP? Variable cost plus opportunity cost. We have seen this already. So minimum TP is nothing but total relevant cost of Division A, which is variable cost plus opportunity cost. So 110 plus 30. How much it comes, Nana? 140. Is that clear? Right. So from the above calculation, it is clear that Division A will never accept a TP less than 140 because 140 is the cost for Division A. Okay, right? Which is variable cost plus opportunity cost. So if division A accepts TP of 120, then for every unit, it will have a loss of 5 rupees because its total cost itself is 125. Are you able to understand? And also the contribution will be reduced from 30 per unit to 10 per unit because it will be losing 20 rupees. Are you able to understand? 140, 120. Ultimately, it will be losing 20. So this will adversely affect the division A's return on investment. Current return on investment is profit is this much, total cost. So profit divided by total cost, investment is nothing but total cost, right? So profit divided by total cost into 100. Right now, its ROI is 12%. If TP of 120 is accepted, then this 12% ROI will be reduced and division A may not be eligible for incentives or bonus based on ROI, and that may lead to demotivation for the manager of division A, which will not be in the interest of the company if he gets demotivated, because that will reduce his efficiency and that is not good for the company. Are you able to get me? Right. What about behavioral consequence of division B? Right now, total cost of division B is 400. Right now, the selling price of division B is 410. That is there in the question. Right now, division B is earning a profit of 10 rupees. So what is the return on investment right now for division B? Okay, it is 10 rupees divided by its total cost is 400. That is the investment into 100, 2.5% only right now. Division B is buying from outside. Okay, if the intermediate product is purchased internally at a price of 120, then what happens? Earlier it is buying from outside at 170 given in the question from the external vendor. Right now you are buying internally at 120, which means straight away you will save what? 50 rupees. Your cost will get reduced by 50. So which means your profit will get increased by 50. So which means earlier your profit is 10, but now your profit is going to be 60. Your cost will get reduced by 50, which means now your cost is only 350. So revised profit divided by revised cost. Now your revised ROI is 17.14% from what? 2.5%. Are you able to get me? So therefore, ROI of division B has got substantially increased from 2.5% to 17.14%. Therefore, division B will accept the TP of 120. So the behavioral concept of division A is it will not accept. The behavioral concept of division B is it will accept because of so and so reasons which we have explained. Like this, you have to explain in the examination. Otherwise, you will not get marks. Everything has to be explained. You see the way I have written like that, you have to explain it. Got it? Chalo. Moving on to the second question. Analyze if it would be beneficial for the company as a whole for division A to supply the lenses to division B at 120 per lens. Let us see whether it will be beneficial for the company as a whole. Right now it is not beneficial for the supplying division, but it is beneficial for the receiving division. Let's see whether it is beneficial for the company as a whole. Now, analysis of benefit for the company as a whole. Loss to the company due to internal transfer of 5000 units is, how much will be the loss? 30 rupees per unit, because the supply division has to sacrifice the external sales, which means for every external sales that it sacrifices for the sake of internal transfer, it will lose 30, and 30 is real profit. So company also will lose 30. So 5000 units into 30, how much you will be losing? 1,50,000. This is because internal transfer can happen only by sacrificing external sales. And this sacrifice of 30 is not only the sacrifice for the supplying division, it is a sacrifice for the company as well, because it is real money. It is real money. Okay. Now what about, so this is what the company will lose because of sacrificing external sales for the sake of internal transfer. But how much it will gain? Let us see. Benefit to the company as a whole because of internal transfer is, earlier your receiving division is buying from outside at 170. But now if you sacrifice buying from outside at 170 and buy internally, from company's perspective, earlier company through receiving division is paying 170 to the external vendor. Now company can manufacture through supplying division at 110 itself, which means company will save 60 rupees for every unit that the receiving division stops buying from outside and starts buying from inside. Company will save 60, which means ultimately the company will save for 5000 units how much? 3 lakhs. So here company will lose 1,50,000 through supplying division, but company will gain 3 lakhs through receiving division. Therefore, ultimately company will be benefiting 1,50,000. So the conclusion is, since the net benefit is positive from company's point of view, there should be internal transfer. Earlier, division B used to buy intermediate product from external vendor at 170. Now instead, it can be manufactured from inside at 110, thereby savings of 60 per unit manufactured internally for the company. Got the point? So from company's point of view, it's good. Internal transfer should happen. Third one. Do you feel that divisional managers should accept the interdivisional transfers in principle? If yes, calculate the range of TP. Let's calculate the range of TP. First, minimum TP from supplying division's point of view, maximum TP from receiving division's point of view. Minimum TP means what? Total relevant cost of the supplying division, which is nothing but in this case, because it has to sacrifice external sales for the sake of internal transfer, it will be variable cost plus opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is nothing but contribution loss, that is benefit lost, which is nothing but selling price minus variable cost, which is 140 minus 110, which comes around 30 from the question. And your minimum TP will be VC plus OC, which is 140. Maximum TP will be what, Nana? NMR, that is the money that receiving division possesses, or external buying price, whichever is less. NMR is nothing but external selling price of the receiving division minus further processing cost of the receiving division. External selling price of the receiving division is 410. Further processing cost of the receiving division, that is own cost of the receiving division, is 180. You can see it from the question. Okay. I don't have time to show the question and answer simultaneously. Okay. Because we are doing rapid revision. Okay. External buying price, of course, it is 170 from the external vendor. So whichever is less is what receiving division will pay. Even though it has got 230 in its pockets, it can buy from outside at 170. So maximum it will pay you 170 only. Are you able to get me? So therefore minimum TP is 140 and maximum TP is 170. So internal transfer is possible, making both the divisional managers happy. You see, anything within the range is possible. Normally it will be average 140 plus 170 divided by 2. You got the point? Chalo, finally, next. Advise alternative transfer pricing models that the chief executive of the company can consider in order to change the attitude of the divisional. The moment you see this, you know the answer. Dual rate transfer pricing system as well as two-part transfer pricing system. Okay, let's move on to the last one. Calculate the range of TP if division A has excess capacity and can accommodate the internal requirement of 5000. If there is excess capacity, what will be your minimum TP? Total relevant cost of supplying division, which is nothing but variable cost only, because when there is excess capacity, there is no need to sacrifice. So no opportunity cost due to excess capacity, because no sacrifice, no contribution lost. Therefore, total relevant cost will be variable cost, which is 110, and maximum TP will be NMR or EBP. That will not change. NMR is nothing but the money that I possess, which is 410 minus 180, okay, or external buying price, whichever is less. So the answer is 170. Therefore, 110 is less than TP is less than 170 will be your answer. Got the point? Right, guys. So that's it. We have solved as many problems as possible, which I feel, little bit, important and conceptually learning questions from your examination perspective. Now the time is 1 hour 34 minutes. I hope I have not wasted your 1.5 hours. My target was to cover at least 70% of this particular chapter in this 1.5 hours. I hope I have tried it to the best possible. So if you have liked this particular video and the effort, definitely hit that like button, because our competitors are very busy hitting the dislike button. And comment it what you feel, because the moment I see your comments, I'll try to put more efforts like this, and I'll try to help you guys as much as possible from my perspective as a teacher. Thank you so much, guys. Love you all. All the best for your exam, guys. Be confident, and I'll come out with 1 or 2 videos with 2 or 3 minutes. What are the tricks that I've followed when I've written my examination? I hope that will help you guys. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. All the best, guys. You will rock SCMP.